Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te confirms a special defense budget aimed at countering China's threats.
投入1兆2500亿元的经费，来建构包括打造台湾之盾。
Taiwanese chip giant TSMC takes a former executive to court, alleging he shared trade secrets with a major competitor. Ukraine is seeing fresh Russian attacks, even as US President Donald Trump pushes for peace. Plus, over 100 dead and tens of thousands displaced as historic monsoon flooding wreaks havoc in Southeast Asia. A warm welcome to Taiwan Plus News. I'm Leslie Liao. President Lai Ching-te has laid out a major new plan to safeguard Taiwan, citing China's increasing military threats and efforts to intimidate the country. Alan Liu reports.
Taiwan is raising the stakes on its defense and working to counter China's push to take the country. That's the message from President Lai Ching-te, who announced a new defense plan following a top-level national security meeting on Wednesday. Lai says Beijing aims to take Taiwan by force by 2027 and has been stepping up preparations to accomplish that goal, including increased military exercises and gray zone harassment around Taiwan. And he says that's why Taiwan is setting its own timeline. Over the next 8 years, Lai says Taiwan will build a strong and capable defense force.
第一个目标是2027年之前达成国军联战部队的高备战能力，有效遏阻中国威胁。第二个目标是2033年进一步建成高度强韧、全面遏阻的防卫战力。
Lai's announcement comes amid heightened Chinese military activity in the region. Between Tuesday and Wednesday morning, Beijing sent 20 jets near Taiwan. It is also conducting military drills in the Yellow and Bohai Seas as tensions with Japan soar. Joined by President Lai on Wednesday was Defense Minister Wellington Koo, who confirmed the details of a planned special budget worth around $40 billion, an unprecedented amount. Koo says the budget, which would run from 2026 to 2033, will be used to develop and purchase the weapons it needs to fend off a Chinese attack. That includes the T-Dome, a new multi-layer air defense system, as well as drones. And he says Taiwan will expand cooperation with the U.S. on defense production.
编列的目的在于争取预算一次性的配布，确保资源稳定集中，加速筹获所需的战力。
The Lai administration's plans have already received praise from U.S. policymakers and representatives. Raymond Green, director of the American Institute in Taiwan, the U.S.'s de facto embassy here, welcomed the announced budgets in a Facebook post. And on X, the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee said the plan demonstrates Taiwan's willingness to enhance its defense capabilities. But the budget, set to be passed by the cabinet soon, will need the approval of Taiwan's opposition control legislature. Experts say the opposition parties are likely to have some disagreements, but passing the budget shouldn't be difficult as long as there's effective communication.
基本上不是一次就拨那么多钱，它是逐年的，就是等于说你要把你的规划拨款期程大概都告诉他我要做什么，然后这些东西投入到哪些去，可能大概就可以去做解决。
China's intimidation of Taiwan goes beyond military activity, though. Officials say Beijing also engages in disinformation campaigns, legal and psychological warfare, and cross-border suppression. Taiwanese authorities say they will improve communication with the public, introduce legislation to counter China's legal warfare, and strengthen international cooperation to better respond to the escalating threats. As China ramps up pressure across the Indo-Pacific, Taiwan is hoping its new plan and proposed budget could signal its determination to defend itself against any moves by China. Fu Hahong and Alan Liu in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he had a great talk with Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae and downplayed recent China-Japan tensions.
I had a great talk. I have a very good relationship with her. I also had a very good talk with President Xi of China, and I think that part of the world is doing fine.
Trump spoke with Takaichi by phone after holding another call with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It comes amid a mounting Chinese pressure campaign against Japan over Takaichi's recent comments on a Taiwan contingency. When asked about his conversation with Xi, Trump said it focused on trade and selling more farm products. But China says that Xi called Taiwan's return to China integral to the world order, and that Trump said the U.S. understands China's position. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has told CNBC's Squawk Box that the U.S. position on Taiwan is unchanged. Bessent's comment came after Trump's phone calls with Japan's Takaichi and China's Xi. The U.S. does not take a formal position on Taiwan's sovereignty. In his interview, Bessent said he felt good about the U.S.-China relationship and the possibility of future cooperation. It's been nearly 5 decades since the U.S. broke off formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Today, though, unofficial ties between the two countries are strong. That's thanks in large part to the Taiwan Relations Act, the legislation passed by the U.S. Congress in 1979 that governs those ties. Many of the law's guarantees were based on recommendations made by the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan, then headed by U.S. lawyer Robert Parker. TaiwanPlus reporter Jeremy Olivier recently spoke to Parker about his experience and his new book, Derecognition, for our news show, Zoom In, Zoom Out.
You went to Washington to testify in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Can you talk a little bit about what your demands were?
Yes, we had to first deal with the omnibus bill and attack it, show why it was deficient, and then take the positive side and make the proposals for what we felt was needed in the legislation.
So how receptive was the Foreign Relations Committee to the demands that you brought them?
They were very receptive. They needed to know what they wanted to respond strongly, but how to respond and what the terms should be. So when the testimony was given, it turned out that the other witnesses largely concentrated on geopolitical factors, philosophical approaches, historical analogies and the like. And it was us, the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan, that focused on the practical and legal issues that would apply. The existence of diplomatic relations with a friendly country under U.S. law carried with it many legal consequences under American law. And it was unprecedented for the United States to break diplomatic relations with a friendly country. In the past, we'd only done that with enemy countries. And suddenly to have all of those things that flowed automatically under U.S. law from the existence of formal diplomatic relations with a friendly country had been swept away. And so in my research for my testimony, I focused on those legal consequences of the existence of official diplomatic relations and the essence of recognizing sovereignty under U.S. law, and wove that into the recommendations that I made, to which the Senate Foreign Relations Committee was very receptive.
And how many of those asks ended up in the final piece of legislation?
Well, it wasn't 100%, but it was close. I'd say 80%.
And among that 80%, what do you think was the most important?
If I had to single out one, it would be that the omnibus bill proposed by the administration did not deal with the fact that Taiwan had a government. They simply referred to the people on Taiwan.
Yeah, very interesting legalese.
Yeah. And so insisting that there had to be a definition in the Taiwan Relations Act that linked that to the government on Taiwan, I think was the most important. And Congress agreed. So that was done. But there were also a wide number of very important issues that had simply been left out of the administration's proposal. For example, what about all of the existing treaties and agreements between the United States and the ROC? Well, Jimmy Carter had said they'll continue in effect. but their proposed legislation didn't say that. So I insisted that that had to be addressed, and Congress agreed and wrote that into the Taiwan Relations Act.
That was former AmCham Taiwan President Robert Parker. You can watch the full episode with him by searching for Zoom In, Zoom Out on our website or YouTube channel. A delegation of lawmakers from Panama has arrived in Taiwan despite reported efforts by China to get the trip canceled. Kate Escaranta has more.
In a show of unofficial diplomacy, several politicians from the Central American country of Panama are in Taiwan. They're set to meet with several Taiwanese officials, including its vice president, and to visit some of the country's high-tech hubs. The foreign ministry says the goal of the trip is to deepen understanding of Taiwan's economic development and industries with the hope of increasing cooperation. It expressed hope the trip would be the beginning of more interactions between the government and people of both countries. What makes this visit so significant is that it's the first time Panamanian lawmakers have visited Taiwan since the country cut formal ties with Taipei in favor of Beijing in 2017. It's also caused a diplomatic spat with China, which allegedly pressured the lawmakers to cancel their visit. Beijing opposes its allies having any official interactions with Taiwan, which it claims as its territory. It's also stirred controversy within Panama, with President Jose Raul Molino saying he didn't approve of the trip. But Panama's foreign ministry appeared to hit back, saying it would not accept any pressure aimed at influencing its authorities' decisions, and the lawmakers went ahead with the trip. One expert says the incident could indicate growing legislative support for Taiwan in Panama.
This trip signals a quiet revival of Taiwan-Panama informal ties and also demonstrates Panama's pragmatism in its foreign affairs direction by looking at different markets for cooperation opportunities, even those that it does not possess formal ties, and an attempt to address the over-economic reliance on China. This recent move by Panamanian legislators isn't isolated. It's one of the latest in a series of low-key exchanges like virtual talks and trade forums, suggesting a legislative pushback against the 2017 decision to end ties with Taipei.
And this is not the only group of foreign lawmakers from countries without formal relations with Taiwan that are visiting right now. A cross-party delegation from Denmark is also in Taiwan, as well as legislators from Colombia who just met with Taiwan's foreign minister. This also comes as several top Taiwanese officials have made visits to non-diplomatic allies in Europe recently, many of which have faced backlash from China. It appears to be part of a possible trend of countries willing to withstand Chinese pressure to interact with Taiwan on their own terms. Hank Xu and Cadence Caranta for TaiwanPlus.
A former top TSMC executive is in the spotlight here in Taiwan. The chip giant is suing him after he left the firm and went to work for their rival. TSMC is taking one of its former executives to court. Luo Wei-ren worked for the Taiwanese chip giant for over 2 decades, retiring as a senior vice president in July, shortly after he joined American chipmaker Intel. In a statement, TSMC alleges there is a, quote, high probability that Luo shared trade secrets with his new employer, violating confidentiality agreements and Taiwan's Trade Secrets Act. TSMC's lawsuit comes after prosecutors in Taiwan launched a probe against Luo for allegedly stealing restricted information on advanced semiconductor manufacturing. According to TSMC, Luo arranged meetings with the R&D department for briefings on the company's advanced technologies, even though that was outside of his purview. While TSMC has decided to litigate, industry leaders seem to think the law can only do so much in this case because it involves cross-border business practices.
职业道德上，我们要小心谨慎不要跨越但是在这一次的个案上面，就考验看看这个台湾在制裁权的跨国处理的司法实务上，看看怎么样
Even so, Luo is already having to deal with consequences. Earlier this year, Taiwan's top research institute, ITRI, awarded him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, ITRI is launching its own investigation into Luo, deciding whether to revoke that award. But industry analysts say Taiwan will need to be proactive in making sure it can retain its talent. Luo's case highlights just how competitive the semiconductor industry is getting, and the lengths other countries may go to obtain top-notch talent.
从罗先生他的一个个案当中，也凸显了台湾高阶人才的一个流动所带来系统性的一个风险，也反映了在全球的一个半导体的人才进入了白热化的一个进程阶段，特别是在美国呢，政府积极推动那么在地化的一个供应链。
This is not the first time TSMC has filed a lawsuit against a former employee. In the early 2010s, a former R&D officer went over to Korean rival Samsung, and that case ended with a court ruling in TSMC's favor. But there's no guarantee that Lo's case will play out the same. Joseph Wu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Visiting fellows from a government-backed think tank gathered for the first time at a panel to discuss lessons learned from Taiwan's democracy. The Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, or TFD, brought together researchers and experts from Georgia, Myanmar, Iran, Turkey, and Nigeria to share insights gained from Taiwan. Some promoted ways Taiwan can engage with their regions, while others compared the democratic movements in their home countries, like in Myanmar, whose democratically elected government was overthrown in a military coup. Some scholars use pseudonyms for privacy and safety when discussing their advocacy.
Taiwan has advanced technology. Taiwan has more experiences than Myanmar by using all these digital platforms to engage in politics. That's why I wanted Taiwan to help activists from Burma to use the tool to counter the military junta. We need more support, not only internally, but also outside support too. That's why we are trying to reach out to more international community to support us in many ways.
TFD frequently hosts exchanges with foreign scholars and diplomats. Ukraine is seeing fresh Russian attacks even as the U.S. Trump administration talks about prospects for ending the nearly 4-year war. The strikes raise concerns that the road to lasting peace could still be far off. John Van Trieste reports.
Firefighters in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia rushed to put out a cluster of blazes caused by Russian drone attacks Tuesday night. The strikes injured several people and damaged apartment blocks, private homes, and other buildings. Zaporizhia's Russian-installed governor says Kyiv launched its own attack, cutting power to tens of thousands. Talks of peace in distant cities like Geneva aren't making a difference either way in Ukraine, as attacks continue. But in Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump remains optimistic a peace plan he's put forth will make a difference, in time. Ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday in the U.S., Trump gave his update on how the talks are going.
Not easy, but I don't know. I think we're going to get there. 25,000 soldiers, Ukraine, Russia. In the last month, 25,000 soldiers have died. So I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out.
He says he's sending U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow to meet with Russia's President Putin, and he's also deploying Army Secretary Dan Driscoll to meet with the Ukrainians. Trump's initial plan had been favorable to Moscow, but it's been revised to reflect Ukrainian concerns. Trump says only a few points of disagreement are left. Ukraine and its European allies aren't quite so sure. Even before the attack on Zaporizhia, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told allies in a video call that talks about peace have yet to bring actual peace.
But we must also not lose sight of reality. Russia's war against us is not in the past. It's happening every single day. Every day Russia takes Ukrainian lives.
French President Emmanuel Macron, one of those on the video call, also showed doubts about a fast end to negotiations.
There is clearly no Russian willingness to agree to a ceasefire today. And the remarks made by the Russian foreign minister in the past few hours after the Geneva talks showed this. He said there was no willingness to discuss the so-called amended plan that emerged from the Geneva discussions.
Russia wants Ukraine to cede land and pledge to stay out of NATO. It says it doesn't know what's in the now revised peace plan, and it's warned that if there have been major changes, it might not be so willing to accept it. One Ukrainian negotiator says the changes to the peace plan include items that Ukraine wanted, but he says without a final version, it's still very much wait and see.
There are some things going on in the media, but I will tell you, I see that there are a lot of misinterpretations going on today already, yesterday. So I would be very careful with assessments like someone accepts everything like Ukraine or someone says it's no-go and non-starter, whatever. I would abstain making this straightforward comments.
So, for Ukrainians, a nearly 4-year-old war grinds on, killing and destroying with no end yet in sight. Klein Wong and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Deadly monsoon flooding has submerged parts of Southeast Asia in deep waters. The death toll has risen to at least 91 in Vietnam and 33 in Thailand, while thousands have fled their homes in Malaysia. Irene Lin has more.
Yellow muddy floodwater has turned city streets into waterways in central Vietnam. 91 people are confirmed dead, and at least 11 are still missing in the aftermath of this rare and devastating monsoon. Vietnam's disaster agency says over 200,000 homes have been engulfed in floodwater, with thousands of hectares of crops wasted. The economic damage is estimated at over $340 million. That includes popular coffee plantations and tourism sites. Some affected residents said this is the worst flood they've ever seen and has taken almost all their possessions.
The damage is total 100%. Everything inside the house has been destroyed. There's nothing left. The fridge and the furniture are still lying outside. Basically, I have nothing now. If I want to eat, I have to ask for a packet of noodles because I don't even have anything to cook with.
Market vendors are busy clearing out the mud and mud-covered school bags and suitcases. They said it could take them over a month to finish cleaning, and no one saw this level of destruction coming.
All these years, the highest water level back in 1993 only reached our ankles. At that time, it rose to about 5 centimeters. But now the water has come in over 1 meter high. All the vendors are devastated, not just me.
The damage has also reached other parts of South Asia. In neighboring Thailand, authorities recorded the heaviest rainfall in over 3 centuries. The flood has killed at least 13 people across 9 provinces and has affected 2 million residents in the southern city of Hatia alone. The Thai government has declared an emergency as it pours in rescue and relief efforts. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, rescuers carry children through rapid floodwaters. Over 18,000 people in the peninsula south of Thailand have had to flee their homes. Southeast Asian countries battle with storms all year round, but rarely see flooding this severe. While some residents begin to clean up, weather forecasts are warning those in southern Thailand and northern Malaysia of continuous rain and flash floods. Ryan Wu and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Festival goers are headed to a historic district of Tokyo to pray for good luck ahead of the new year. With the political winds changing, some are coming with current events in mind, while others seek wealth and happiness. John Van Trieste reports.
It's an exciting time of year in Tokyo's Asakusa area. Every November, the local Otori Shrine hosts the historic Tori-no-Ichi festival, a time to pray for success in the fast-approaching new year. To rake in good fortune in the year ahead, worshippers here buy actual rakes decorated with symbols that reflect their hopes for the future. Some of those buying the lucky decorations this year are looking ahead to 2026 with current events in mind. Japan's just got its first female prime minister, Takaichi Sanae. She's deeply conservative, but a change is a change. And some shoppers here hope things go smoothly.
There are always people who push back whenever things change, so I think it's inevitable that there's so much noise about her taking office. As for what I hope for, I'm still in my 20s, so I just want things to become easier, so that our generation and our children's generation can live well in the future.
But Japan's also grappling with tensions with China. Takaichi is well disposed towards Taiwan. Before she became prime minister, she even visited Taiwan and met with President Lai Ching-te. But China claims Taiwan and says it will take it by force if it has to. When Takaichi recently said a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could trigger a Japanese military response, Beijing was furious. It's held military drills in the Yellow Sea and put on economic pressure too, with bans on Japanese seafood. Some people are concerned.
In the end, I am worried about the Prime Minister's remarks. China has gotten really tense because of them. Creating that kind of situation, I feel like one remark really changed things. It's really difficult.
But this hasn't dampened the mood for everyone. Some say they trust Takaichi to guide Japan through the spat with China.
I believe Prime Minister Takaichi will do what she needs to do, so I trust her. And I hope that Japan-China relations will gradually move in a better direction.
And as people who come to buy lucky rakes do so for money or a happy household, geopolitics takes a backseat as people mark the ebbing of one year and the approach of a fresh start in a new one. Devin Tsai and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has won over a dozen medals at the 2025 Deaf Olympics in Tokyo, including 1 gold, 6 silver, and 6 bronzes. The latest medal, a bronze, was secured by the mixed badminton team, who defeated India 3-1. This marks the 3rd Deaf Olympics in a row that Taiwan has medaled in the sport. Meanwhile, the mixed bowling team won silver. This year's Deaf Olympics will wrap up Wednesday afternoon. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. We end today's show on a festive note with images of a giant river turtle at a Chicago aquarium enjoying a special Thanksgiving treat. We'll see you out. Take care and see you next time.